So now I'm going to explain something which is interesting, especially people in the organization use it very often, called as a SharePoint Excel. Okay. So what is the SharePoint? So there's something called SharePoint Excel and something called a SharePoint list. So we'll start with SharePoint Excel. So what exactly is SharePoint? So let me just show you that. So I'll show you a SharePoint site, a demo SharePoint site that I've set up for you guys. Okay. This is the demo SharePoint site. Okay. So basically, everybody who is working for an organization, they have a SharePoint site. Just like, once you get into a company, they will first generate your email address, Outlook ID for that company ID, right? So usually most of the times, like 99% of the time, the company ID would be a Microsoft ID, right? So it will be more often like an Outlook ID. And then along with the Microsoft, that Outlook ID, you'll be having access to PowerPoint, right? Word, Excel. So everything will be packaged. Like it is a 365 license, Microsoft 365 license that you'll be getting it along with the email address. So along with that, you'll be having access to SharePoint, like OneDrive. People must be using OneDrive, right? Just like OneDrive, there's a SharePoint, OneDrive and all. So just like that, we will be having access to SharePoint. So usually what organizations do is they share the documents, they share the data, they share their newsletters, they share their latest updates in the homepage. Like they wanted to announce something, they kind of announce. They wanted to push some news every day. They keep all that here. Like along with that, they keep the data here. They share the data with other users. Just like you can see here, there's a folder structure available, right? And you can add Excel files, and you can add CSV files, Word documents, a lot of stuff. Okay, you can create a lot of pages. So this is one of the SharePoint site. Okay, so what we are going to do now is, as you can see, we just navigated towards the documents and datasets folder, and then we have an Excel folder. So I have uploaded a dataset here. Okay, an Excel file. So we are going to connect to this particular cloud based, again, SharePoint site. Okay, so when I say cloud based SharePoint site, so let's say you are working for some TCS company. So TCS SharePoint site, if you share it with some of your friend, that particular link, just like this, who's in Infosys, he will be not able to access that particular link, because that SharePoint site is integrated with your organizational security, and only your organizational employees or the candidates with that particular IDs can be accessed, right? Somebody else cannot access that particular ID. So there is a valid ID and password. Okay, so the valid authorization which is takes place. So just like that, you need to have a valid ID and password to access this particular thing. Okay, so I'm going to use this particular SharePoint site because most of the time in an organization, data is shared here, and your manager can ask to build a report based upon this Excel as a file. Okay, so I'm going to this particular Power BI desktop. Now I'm going to connect to SharePoint file, which is an Excel file which is stored on my SharePoint. So I'm going to do that. Let's go to get data. Click on more and then search for SharePoint. Okay. So as you can see, there are three things that are coming here. One is SharePoint folder, one is SharePoint online list, the other one is SharePoint list. So SharePoint online list and SharePoint list are almost one and the same. There's a small difference. So we'll look into that bit later. Now we are focusing on SharePoint folder, just like you have seen the SharePoint folder structure, and there we have a data set. So your SharePoint folder is the connector that we need to use in order to connect to that Excel file which is stored on the SharePoint. Okay, I'm going to select this as my connector and click on connect. So once I click on connect, so again it is expecting something, site URL. So before you move on to adding the site URL, you always try to read the information which is trying to show here. There's some icon. So when you hover on it, says enter the root URL for the SharePoint site, not including subfolders. So basically it is asking you to enter the root URL. Do not include any subfolders. Why? Because let's say if I copy this link, you can see there's a very big link coming up, right? So there are a lot of subfolders. But what is being asked there? Just pick up the root URL. Maybe the root URL is this one, till .com/, right? Just select that and copy it just go back and paste it here. Okay. So when you paste it here, you can click on OK. So automatically it tries to give you the next option to log in or, to access it. So basically, because I have logged in earlier, it is not asking me the authentication part. Let me quickly remove this authentication so that you guys can see what it should ideally ask. Okay, I'm just clicking on cancel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to recent sources, or I'm going to go to data source settings. I'm going to remove the options, like basically there are a lot of things I've connected earlier. You can see these are all the options. So I'm going to clear all the permissions so that it doesn't remember anything, because this is all catchy. Okay. So we'll talk about all these options later. Do not worry about that. I'm going to delete all the previously connected options so that it thinks that I'm connecting this for the first time, so that it should ask me it should show me the regular steps that a new person would follow, right? So I'm going to SharePoint. And I'm going to paste this. Now you can see this is what I was expecting. Yes. Since now it is thinking that, okay, this is the first time that I'm trying to connect. So it will ask me, okay, do you have access? Again, you might have noticed this, right? Anonymous. It's saying use anonymous access for the SharePoint. So I cannot use this anonymous. Why? Because it is not a public link, right? If I share this link, you cannot access that link. There is a valid ID and password. If you go back and notice, there is a valid ID and password here. You can see I've logged in as an admin at santoshpotnak.com. There is a standard ID there. So in order to log in, there is a ID there. So now again, it is not a Windows setup. However, it's a Microsoft account. It is a Microsoft account. Yes. So I can use this Microsoft account and I can click on sign in. So the next step, it is asking me, you aren't signed in. So I want to sign in from here itself. So I can click on sign in. So automatically it tries to go to the browser and try to establish a sign in. Can click on this is my ID, santoshpotnak.com. You can see once I clicked on it, earlier I entered the password, so it is picking the password from there. But people are doing it for the first time. You need to enter the password, and you can see once you enter the password, it will be able to log in, and you can see this option called as you are currently signed in. So once you are signed in, this is turned into green color, right? You can now connect. That means we are able to connect to the SharePoint site and see what is the underlying folder structure or underlying files that are available. Right now, I just added one file. That's the reason you are able to see only the one file. Okay. So once you see the one file, you can click on transform data. Okay. So that will land this particular option here in the Power Query editor. For this, Excel coming from the SharePoint site, you need to do a bit of further steps. So right now, you cannot see the data directly of that particular file. You'll be able to see all the files available. So right now you have only one file, so you are seeing one file. So if you have two files would have shown here. So again, you need to define here to pick up a file that you need to connect. Okay. So now here I'm trying to pick up a tape. For example, I wanted to connect to this file, I know. But how do I do? So I need to click on a hyperlink. Basically, if you scan through the entire thing, there are two hyperlinks. You can see there's a record which is showing as hyperlink, and there's a binary which is showing as an hyperlink. So you need to always click on binary as an option. So these are the standard steps that you need to follow whenever you're trying to connect to, SharePoint for the Excel as a data, Excel as a source. So click on this binary. Automatically what happens, it pulls the data set, which is sitting on the sample-superstore. So as you can see, automatically a couple of steps are being applied on the right side. So what happened? Basically, it has brought in all those sheets. So it has scanned the entire particular superstore Excel file, and it has brought in almost 7 records. So we are aware of few records already, right? You are aware of few records. Few of them are tables, few of them are sheets. So you know why there are duplicates. You need not worry on that. So let's say if you want some orders related data, so you can always click on another hyperlink. No, click on table. Okay, there's another just click on table. So automatically again absorb on the right side. So automatically it shows, okay, only orders is pulled up as a sheet. So again, you can always delete this. We'll cover all these things in Power Query Editor, but you can always delete this and go back to the previous step. And maybe let's say you wanted to click on this order. because this might be a table. Click on this. So you know the difference between table and sheet, right? So you can see this is how it is coming. So further, you might want to again go and format a lot of other options. We're not going into that. So finally, we are able to get the data that we wanted from the SharePoint. Okay, so this is a standard process that you need to follow. So when you repeat it and practice it from your end, you'll be able to get a little bit more closer to what I've just shown you. Okay, so this needs practice. Okay, this is a standard process. Okay, so we were able to successfully connect it to SharePoint Excel.